Hello, everyone. Welcome to I want to dub it the Crusty controller, where
Oh,
we speak about video games. Right today, we're just doing a first impression sort of video. A
yes.
brand new game came out. You've played it. I've played it. My grandma's played it. Everyone's played it. Elden Ring.
Yes.
Big. It's really hot right now. It's
Very, very hot. But I guess for some background, Paul and I have played every single one of the Souls games to at least some extent. Like,
Mhm.
I've never finished Demon Souls, but other than that, I've played all of them. I've played and beaten all of them. I jumped on the series at Dark Souls 2 because of Paul, actually. He introduced me to Dark Souls.
I've been on the Dark Souls penis for a long time. Very long time. Before it was cool, Before it was cool. Dab
It's
dab on
true.
the haters.
It's
Dab dab.
true.
I remember talking to people about Dark Souls and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a
What is
pretty
that?
pretty pretty hard game. It's cool."
Is that some kind of like nerd game or something?
Yeah. It was very
Um,
underground and then it
y-
blew up.
yeah. That the game's popularity spread mostly through word of mouth, and then
Yeah.
it kind of blew up to like one of the like most well known difficult games. But Elden Ring was announced like I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, like at one of the Game Awards, and after that, it was just like complete radio silence for like 2 years. We just had like
Yeah.
no idea if this game was actually coming out. Like I used to joke with my friends, I'm like, no, this game doesn't exist. They announced it as a joke. Like, but then they started showing more and more stuff about it. They revealed a release date. The game was delayed, and my excitement on it kind of dwindled because there's just been so many times where I've been burned by games that are hyped up, delayed, and then finally released, and they needed like another 2 years in the oven.
Mhm.
Um, but I can safely say that Elden Ring is the first time that this has happened, and I've been like, wow, this has fucking exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, so far so good, in
Yes.
terms of first impressions. I was playing it and I'm very pleasantly surprised at
Yeah.
how much fun I'm having.
Me too. For kind of reference, Paul currently has about like 6 hours in it
Yeah.
because he has like a life and a fulfilling career or some shit. I didn't bother with any of that. So I have 35 hours
My god.
in Elden Ring.
Jesus.
And I want to remind you that at the time of recording this, the game has been out for probably about 72 hours.
Dude, I've been
So
wanting if I didn't have friends, I
mhm.
would have no lifed this
See,
over the weekend.
that's where you went wrong, bro.
Yeah.
Why have social interactions with people
Yeah.
when you can just stay home and play
I
Elden
got
Ring?
roped in. Yeah, I know. I got roped into to a friend hangout yesterday. I was like, "Fuck. Fuck, I just want to play Elden Ring." But
So
whatever.
yeah, so obviously I've experienced like 10 times more things than Paul has, and I'm sure that most of the people probably playing right now. So just keep in mind that this first impressions video will be
Spoiler.
very spoiler free.
Mhm.
I will be talking about some instances of a game, but I will not be revealing like what the specific situation was. And most of the things that we'll be talking about will probably be like within the first 2 or 3 hours of the game. So
Yeah, we'll
um,
keep it fairly short. I
yeah.
doubt this will go very long, right?
No, no. What I can say is I was actually kind of sick to death of open world games before Elden Ring.
Oh,
I just feel like for every unique crafted world, there's like 30 Ubisoft games that just like reuse the same map over and over again and just stick like 900 collectibles in it with like shitty side quests.
yeah.
Modern games are just obsessed with making a massive open world and filling it with nothing.
Mhm.
Elden Ring was like an incredible breath of fresh air. It's like one of the most impressive open worlds of like any game that I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah.
How so? Hmm?
So there's a lot of activities to do. And yeah, you can kind of boil it down by like go to this area and fight a horde of enemies, go to this area, fight a horde of enemies. But I feel like the exploration of Elden Ring really is really, really rewarding. As you know, there's kind of like open world bosses and hidden dungeons and stuff.
Yeah.
But the way that you find some of these dungeons, I'm like, who the fuck would think to look here? And here's a dungeon. Like, and it's not just like one room with a treasure chest. It's like an expansive dungeon. Like with multiple rooms. Like the first few dungeons in the game are pretty basic, but dude, it fucking expands. Like
Really?
it gets pretty intricate. And
That's cool.
yeah, like that stuff felt so great. There's another mechanic in the game that I don't want to reveal, but it encourages memorization and exploration,
Hmm.
which I really, really fucking dig, and it rewards you pretty nicely.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about, but
Yeah.
I would say I think they hit the sweet spot on an open world game.
Hmm. Hmm.
Typically, I'm not the biggest fan of open world games because I think, as you mentioned, most of the time there's a ton of empty space in those open worlds.
Yeah.
Like they can be as expansive as they want, as big as they want, break as many records as they want. It doesn't make them any more fun.
Yeah. If you
Like,
don't fill them with anything fun to do, then what's the point?
yeah, like when they say, I don't know, for example, like Skyrim or whatever, they say, "Oh, it's that's big" or whatever, but most of the time
Yeah.
you're just walking to the next destination. Like it's so very boring. It might be nice to look at, but like besides that, like it's not much to it. But I think in Dark Souls, or sorry, Elden Ring, they did it to where it's open world enough.
Hmm.
It's not like a lot of open world.
Yeah.
They basically just keep you at a region and then you explore that region and then you move on. And they even have a little light kind of pointing you in the direction they want you to go. So if you
Yeah.
want a super linear experience, you can do that if you want. So
But really, you're doing yourself such a big disservice if you do that, though. Like if you
yeah,
choose to approach it in a linear sense, because more so than ever, this is probably the most accessible From Software game. Because if you encounter a roadblock, you can just be like, "Oh, I'll come back later," as opposed to other games where you're like, "No, this is the boss, and you have to beat this to proceed." You know what I mean?
to a certain extent, sure.
Well,
Because I'll tell you, I'm currently stuck on like the first big
but
boss, I
but
guess.
you can go out and explore. Like you're not locked to any region. I'll say this right now from watching you've missed some things. You can
Oh,
definitely go out and continue to explore. So what Paul's referring to is the first kind of like major boss,
Margit,
Margit. Yeah, and this is actually on
a
online.
bridge.
This boss and another boss are actually the two biggest roadblocks for a lot of people on TikTok right now, which is kind of
Oh, okay.
funny. um it's kind of interesting to see, but definitely like if you find yourself struggling with Margit and you feel super underpowered, it's because you probably are. He's kind of meant to be like really strong and really fast to encourage you to go out and explore and look elsewhere.
Filter.
Yeah. Compared to the other games in the Soul series, this definitely feels like it's the most free, where you can just
Hmm.
you don't have to follow the linear story at first. Like of course you have to do it to beat the game, but like you can come back whenever the fuck you want. Like you can
Yeah.
explore for hours before you fight Market.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. Though I wouldn't say there's that much to explore in that region before Margit, but yeah, I agree with you for the most part.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with that because like there is not like it's weird because this game has been criticized for like having a lack of things to do, which I kind of agree with. Like a lot of like I said earlier, a lot of the activities in this game just boils down to killing enemies.
I mean, that's
Um
all that Dark Souls is. Like, they can't do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But like people are saying like there's no collectibles, which I personally really like, but I can see why it would be a turnoff for somebody. I fucking hate when open world games are like, "Oh, you collected one seed out of 9,999." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fuck all of that."
But I mean, I think that's why I'm saying again. I go back to it's kind of like a semi open world game. It's not a fully open world game. I don't think.
It
Yeah,
is.
I guess I haven't played enough, but
Yeah.
at least for right now, my first impressions is like it's semi-open world because you get the region and you can freely look around, but you still got that linear aspect that you got to meet, and there's just not enough to do in that single region that I've seen yet.
Mhm.
Maybe I should go explore more. I don't know, but right now I got to the boss and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try and beat the boss, and then
Yeah.
so I haven't thought about it.
I think for like a Souls veteran like yourself, and you said yourself you don't really like open world games all that much, it can be a little like Because in the previous Souls game, you're encouraged to just kind of fucking hit your head against the wall until you win. And I feel like this game is the first time where they're changing that formula. So I feel like you should probably go out and explore a little bit more. Just look around all the hidden nooks and crannies and stuff, because it really does feel surface level, I guess, but there's so much more depth to it than you probably think.
Okay.
But with that being said, this game is a pure-blooded Souls game, and that means it's pretty fucking difficult. I was reading articles, I'm sure you were reading them before too, about how this game is more accessible to people. It's going to be easier, and I was like, oh man, that kind of sucks. But when I played it, I'm like, this game is kicking my fucking ass. Like,
Yeah, I
this doesn't
don't.
feel easier at
I
all.
think by accessible they meant like what you meant, whereas like you can back off of a boss
Mm,
if you don't want to fight it.
yeah.
Because you can definitely do that, except for the main bosses. Like I said, so I'm stuck at Market right now. For the rest of them, it's like you find little hidden bosses, or you come across a boss in the open world, and you go, "Oh shit, I can't beat this guy," and you can just sneak past it or whatever
Yep.
and move on. So,
Yeah.
like, and then you can come back and fight it later, which is nice.
Yeah. Which
So
I
I
think
think,
is really cool.
yeah, so I think that's what they mean by more accessible, like you meant. But in terms of difficulty, I don't think they really lessened the bar. If anything, they upped it, in
Yeah.
my opinion, because I'm having such a hard time with Margit. So I will say, in like the other games and Dark Souls and stuff, it's like I can keep practicing
Yeah.
and eventually I'll get the rhythm, but I just haven't got there with Margit yet. I thought I did, and then it got into its like second phase, and I'm just like, oh shit, like I'm getting wrecked
Yeah.
again. So I'm like, fuck. Um, and I've done at least like 20 tries already or something like that. So
Jeez.
I think I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go back and explore and see what I can
Yeah,
get
that might be
here
best.
and this
So
thing.
so let me ask you this. Prior to Margit, how many bosses have you fought?
I've killed like two or three.
Yeah, so you've done a pretty good amount of exploring and stuff, and you've looked around like
Yeah, I went into like a cave and killed some dude in there, and
yeah.
that's kind of how it is with the open world bosses. That is a critique of mine. They're kind of just like some dude. I mean, some of them are a little more elaborate than others, like the golden horse guy,
Mhm.
or if you go into like super side area where it's you just see like a dark blue circle on the ground, you can go into like this realm,
Yeah.
and then you fight a knight, but like the knight is just a knight, so
Yeah.
like nothing really special.
Yeah, the first area that you spawn in is very like tutorially,
Okay,
where the enemies aren't very unique and they're not very like varied, but it does get pretty fucking out there.
okay,
Is what I'll say. Like for the design choices, whenever I would see an enemy or a boss, I would just wonder like, is this the last game that Miyazaki's ever gonna make? And he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna get weird with it. Cause like,
weird, huh?
yeah,
Weirder than like
some
Bloodborne.
it's on par. Like Dark Souls, for example, was very like dark gothic fantasy. And then you have Sekiro, it's like feudal Japan, Bloodborne, that's like Lovecraft. But Elden Ring, I would say, is like high fantasy. There's a lot more weird and out there shit with how they design their enemies. And there's like castles and princesses, but there's like a unique twist on it, which I very much enjoyed. But
Okay, okay.
I promise the enemy variety gets a lot better, because I definitely agree with you. The opening area, I was a little disappointed. I'm like, oh, everything is just guy with metal suit or
Yeah.
guy with horse on metal suit. Like, but it does get a lot more varied as you progress.
Okay.
Uh,
I should
Um,
just keep playing it.
yeah, basically.
All right, that's fair.
Let me
It's
see.
very different opinions here because like mine is I would say like super first impression,
Mhm.
just like the beginning area. while you are like probably halfway through the game, so you're like, oh no, I got much better, you know.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
like, I would say like I'm approaching the middle, because I've definitely taken my time more so than other games of exploring, looking around every nook and cranny. Like I've fought around 13 bosses,
Okay.
and I would say like three of them are part of the story. Like without any spoilers, with those 13 bosses that I said, or 12, only one of them has been complete and utter bullshit. The other
Hmm.
ones feel very fair. When you die, it's like, yep, that was on me. But there's one where I'm like, fuck this dude.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
was probably the only time in the game that I was not having any fun. I just wanted to get it over with. For anybody who's ever fought the Capra demon in Dark Souls 1, it's similar to that, but not as bad, but it's pretty close. I would say that like this game does a lot of things to improve the quality of life from the previous games. Like
Yeah,
it kind of blends the combat of Sekiro and Dark Souls 3. Like what do you think so far?
I agree with that statement. I think the combat is sick. I
Yeah.
really like it.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, like it's like fast paced, but still very Dark Souls esque.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
as fast as Bloodborne, but like
no,
it's still quite like speedy.
yeah, and I think the speediness comes from like Sekiro, but
Mm-hmm.
because like even with Margit, when I was fighting Margit, like that battle is pretty fast paced, and I'm using like a claymore at the moment,
Yeah.
and I'm still like chopping, jumping, chopping, and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, like it's
Yeah.
still a lot that goes into it, even if I'm using this very slow weapon.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Like it's still so fast paced, and I feel like enemies and bosses do like way more damage this time. Like maybe it's just me, but like I have a pretty high vitality, and I still feel like I die in like 3 or 4 hits.
I
You
have
know?
not upgraded vitality, so I
Yeah.
can't go.
Like I always felt like you were a little tankier in the other Souls games, and maybe they did this to kind of speed up the pace of a fight, but like I just feel like you die so much quicker in these
Mm.
games, which isn't a bad thing. It can just be kind of annoying sometimes. Where I'm fighting an enemy and I'm just like, well, that just fucking took like half my health bar.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But
You ever considered getting good?
okay, dude. Okay, you're the one fucking hard stuck on Margit. And
We don't talk about that. My jellyfish died. You watched
yeah,
him die.
I did watch him die. That was really sad. It was like really tragic.
A little jelly.
Yeah, so this game adds a lot of really cool things like summoning. Well,
Summoning.
summoning other players has been a thing since forever, but like
Cringe.
you can you can summon like NPCs,
Cringe.
like wolves or the jellyfish
Oh,
or like
that's cool.
skeletal warriors to kind of help you out
Yeah,
in an area.
it's essentially a new class. You get a little summoning bell, and you can, but they limit you on it. You can only summon one thing at a time, unless you can upgrade that later. I don't know. Right
You
now, you can
can.
only,
I actually don't know that because I can also only summon one thing at a time as well. But honestly, I like people are saying that this makes the game like so much easier. I think that all these summons are fucking useless. Like
or is probably the wolves or the jellyfish that
I have like 8 or 9 of these things unlocked. I still think the jellyfish is the best one because it's like a tank.
yeah.
Like every time, like the bosses just have like this AOE ability that just wipes them out in one go. And I'm like, well, great. There's all my mana gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I think they're just
but
supposed to be used as a distraction or something.
maybe that I think so too. Like it's definitely a really neat idea. I just
Or,
haven't found a good use for them yet.
or there might be very powerful in PvP.
Oh, yes. Man, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Another thing that this game adds is a mount in the form of Torrent, like a half goat, half horse type thing. And I gotta say that this is kind of hit or miss for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's not perfect. Like the way that he controls is a little slippery and weird. I feel like a lot of the times he just does whatever the fuck he wants. um,
Yeah, I missed a lot of hits with it. But
yeah, and it's definitely
so,
led to a lot of unnecessary deaths.
okay.
But what I wanted to say was, I feel like this mount adds not only a new way to traverse the map, but also like a brand new layer to combat. Because maybe I'm sure you haven't really encountered this yet, but there was an enemy that I died to like 10 times. And I just couldn't fucking beat this guy because it was a world boss. He had very large
Oh,
sweeping attacks that were really hard to avoid. And then I realized I'm like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. Like there's a mount in this game now. Like maybe this is how I have to approach it. And I beat him on my first try
okay.
because there are some abilities where you just need to run. like very quickly away, and like the mount does that, like the double jump and all that, like so it adds this whole new layer to combat, which I really really like, where if you're having trouble with something you can just approach it with your mount and see if that's different.
Yeah, I think that's a good statement. There's different ways that you can approach enemies now. They have also
Mm-hmm.
included stealth from Sekiro,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
every now and then you'll find an encampment or a group of enemies that you can kill, and you
Yes.
kill them either by stealth or just go full balls deep. Um,
Yep.
which is probably not the best idea now because they've actually updated how many characters are on screen at a time.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how many like huge mobs of enemies I've run into. I'm like,
Yeah,
holy shit,
yeah.
I'm supposed to take on all these guys?
As opposed to like the previous games where there was only like 3 or 4 enemies at a time. Now there could be like as many as like 10 to 20.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like some, without giving anything away, there are some situations where I was like, it's crazy that there's so many enemies on the screen right now.
And you can't give me that answer for those listening about like like the Dukes from the third game. Or,
Oh,
oh no, there's like 50 guys there. Yeah, that doesn't count. That's a fucking boss. Like,
it's a boss and it's a very enclosed, like separately rendered space.
yeah, I'm talking
Like,
about like separate enemies coming together fighting you at
yes.
a time. Like that's pretty wild.
And sometimes they fight each other, which is
I haven't
pretty fucking cool.
I haven't seen that yet, but that's
You'll run into it and you'll be
actually
like, wow.
I think I might have seen that. When
Yeah.
you're coming up to Margit, there's like a giant or whatever that drops.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing that I want to point out for like the quality of life, and I think this is the best quality of life feature, and it needs to be part of future Souls games, is the stakes of America or the grace right next to the boss room. Like the most unfun aspect of this
Oh,
game has always been having to fucking run back to fight the boss again. I don't give a call me a casual, tell me to get good. I don't give a fuck. That shit was not fun.
I
Um
see. I'm very torn because I agree with you, but at the same time, it was meant to be a punishment. So I'm like, I don't know.
Games should never be punishing. They should be hard. That's my opinion.
Uh,
Games should never punish you. They should just be difficult.
See, but Dark Souls has always been about punishment, though. That's why I'm like very torn on that one because I agree with you in a sense, but at the same time, like Dark Souls was meant to be a punishing game. So that's why no one ever played it until people started getting good at the game, and then
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then, Paul. What is more memorable to you? Finally defeating the boss after trying it several times, or all the times that you were running back to fight the boss?
both. Because when I lose, I go fuck. I have to run again, and then if I beat the boss, I go fine a fuck Ali. I don't have to run this time. Like
Did
for great example, Ornstein and Smoke, the longest bonfire walk in the entire game.
Ornstein and Smo? I mean,
Yeah, from the
oh,
first game.
you're right. That one's pretty brutal.
That one's really, really punishing because when you die, you go all the way back to like the first bonfire or whatever, and you have to go down the little spiral. No, not the spiral staircase, but you have to take the elevator down,
Hmm.
run down the spiral staircase, walk all the way over, climb up the stairs, avoid everything, go
And
inside, then
there's several giants too in
yeah,
your
you
way.
gotta avoid all that. So it's like
Well,
super long.
technically, Paul, there is a bonfire inside of Anor Londo.
Yeah, I mean, there's another one, but like it's
I know what you mean, though.
sounds kind of
No.
the way.
Did you ever play the Dark Souls 2 DLC?
Yeah,
The
I played
the
all.
s- the snow one?
Yeah,
That one has the fucking worst run back to a boss ever in a video game. Where it's like you need to traverse like the blizzard area where you could only see like 10% of the time, and you have like invisible enemies coming to get you. Like, what the fuck was that, dude? Like, that was complete bullshit.
Well, to be fair, this is just another strat of like get good or whatever. Like
Mhm.
at some point, you have to realize that you're not supposed to fight everything, and you're just supposed to run to the next spot.
But then again, it's just why stick all those enemies there then?
I,
Like, I just,
it's
I fucking,
I don't.
whatever, dude. Call me a casual, however much you want. I think that this feature is the best fucking thing added to this series.
It's one of the reasons why it's more accessible. I'll give it.
Yes, I in theory, I like the idea of having to run back after narrowly dying to a boss. I get the idea of it, but sometimes they took it way too fucking far. Where I'm just
Yeah,
like, this is ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
sometimes the run back to the boss was harder than the actual boss. You know? I'm
I don't
looking
know
at you,
about
Dark
that one.
Souls 2.
I don't know about that one, but I do agree that some of the bonfires are a little much a little spread apart
Yeah.
to the boss a little bit.
Yeah.
Some I get it. Some yeah are way too fucking long. AKA spelled out way too long.
Ornstein and Smo is pretty fucking long if you don't get that shortcut bonfire. But even then, there's like 4 of those
Still
giant
fucking
sentinels guarding the fog door. And God forbid if you're not fast at getting to that fog door, they will catch you and fuck you up.
yeah, it's still a pain in the fucking ass. So
Yeah.
either way, it's shitty. But
Especially because Ornstein and Smo as a boss, you're gonna be dying to a lot,
yeah,
probably on your first playthrough.
it's the filter. So
But yes, I really love all the quality of life changes that Elden Ring has brought. I think that Legend of the Zelda, the Breath of the Wild one, has like changed open world games, and I'm happy that other open world games are following in its example. Like, for example, when you pick up the crafting materials, it just shows up in your inventory. Like there's no animation of you getting off your horse, picking the berries, putting them in your bag, and then moving on. Like I fucking have no patience for games that have that animation nowadays. Like
fucking crackhead.
yeah, maybe I am, but like it's so annoying when you're like fucking when you're just trying to get to the boss and your character's just picking all these berries. I'm like,
I
just put them in your bag and move on.
I know. I think they should have an animation, but not
No.
where you fucking stand still. That's annoying. I'm talking like Monster Hunter animation where you just like run and grab shit. That's cool.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I agree with that.
I like that one.
Yeah. But like what is that game? Horizon Forbidden West or whatever?
Oh,
Like it has a little like 2 second long animation where you're like picking the berries. I'm like, just fucking stick it in your bag. I don't have the patience for that. So it's the little things like that about Elden Ring that really add up to me. Yeah, like I don't know, like I think it's a little too early for me to say that it's like the greatest Souls game or whatever. Like it's definitely way too early, but like it feels like the most refreshing one to me.
yeah, it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Though I will say, actually, it's refreshing in the sense that it's something new. The open world aspect is new, though.
Mhm.
You can argue that all of the other Dark Souls games are somewhat open world, but you know,
Not to this extent
not
though.
to this.
Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll say the combat is pretty cool, but me just finishing like Sekiro not too long ago, I'm like, oh yeah, I could see where they took a lot from Sekiro. So I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where kind of like that discussion happens where because a lot of assets in this game are like kind of reused.
yeah,
Like the Hedge Knight, the first open world boss you encounter is basically just Gyobu from Sekiro.
yeah.
And some people have a problem with that. I personally don't really care.
I mean, this game's supposed to be sort of an amalgamation of like all the other games.
Exactly. Yeah, like there's
So,
elements borrowed from like every Souls game.
yeah,
Um except for maybe like Bloodborne. That's probably the one that's missing the most.
Bloodborne 2.
Fucking you wish.
Please.
um
Pretty first impressions, I would say it's a damn good game. If you've never played Dark Souls or any of those kinds of games, you can start here, but you're gonna be very disappointed that it's not as easy as people made it out to be.
I would say yeah, I know, right? I would say if you're at all feeling intimidated by this game, just please give it a chance. Like The thing that's always bothered me about Dark Souls is it has this reputation for being like a rage game, like I Want to Be the Guy or like Cat Mario, you know, those like old Flash games that are just
Yeah.
like bullshit hard. And it's not that. Like it's just about overcoming a tough challenge. Like it's hard, but it's not impossible. And if you're at all curious about the Soul series or the FromSoft games, just give this one a try because if you're stuck on a boss like Paul is right now, you can just go out and explore, you know, and discover some new things. And I think that this is probably the most accessible game in the entire series, from all the FromSoft games. Like I said, I'm like about 36 to 40 hours into this game. I'm obviously very, very much enjoying it. For my money, it's my game of the year um, already in fucking February. um,
Fanboy,
I
everyone,
don't give a
yeah,
I don't
got a
I
fanboy
don't give a
here.
shit. I'm the biggest Dark Souls help from software sim. I'll fucking gargle Miyazaki's balls, bro. I don't give a shit. I love this series. Yeah, I'm fully admitting my bias right now.
I love
um,
the Dark Souls series, but I don't know if this is a 10 out of 10 like everyone is saying. Completely honest. I haven't played it enough,
so
but
okay, so what do you think? Like, what are some things that worry you about this?
the open world
Because
and
you're very picky about open worlds. Okay,
yeah, like I said, it
yeah,
has to have stuff to do. It has to be not super barren because,
okay.
like I said, that's what a lot of open world games do. They go where we got this, we got that, but like there's not a lot that you do, and most of it is just traveling.
So what you mean is like when you're from point A to point B, the in between is just grass. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
like Red Dead 2 is a good one where everyone was saying the open world is amazing. And it is
Hmm.
when you go into a town and stuff, but when you're like going on the countryside, there is nothing to do. You're just traveling. And
Yeah, like
then you'll get like a secret quest or whatever, but that's
yeah.
so rare, you know.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, what else?
We'll see what happens with there. The lore, another one. I'll have to see what happens with the story in this game. I'm not sure where it's headed.
Yeah.
But we'll see where that goes. I typically kind of downgrade ratings of the Dark Souls games in that aspect because like a game you can't force people to go, okay, if you want to know the story, you got to go fucking read the lore. like that's
I fully agree with you on that.
like
Yeah.
that's kind of fucking that's horseshit. Like come
Yep. I 100,000%.
on.
Like it's the same thing that Destiny was criticized for, but the Souls games get a pass, which I don't get.
And I don't think that's fair. So
No.
claiming this game is a 10 out of 10, no way. No, because there is no story. You have to go out and look for the story for yourself. And
This
that's
game
where
does a slightly better job.
it's better. I would say if you want an actual narrative, you go into Sekiro. That one had a narrative.
Oh yeah, because it's like a revenge story. Yeah, I can see that for
That one,
sure.
like that's what I'm talking about. But then like you got Elden Ring where it's just you're welcome tarnished. Go forth and find your fucking butthole. You know, like that's all they tell you, and then there's nothing. So like we'll see if there's any more.
Hmm.
But I would say like Sekiro was the golden child in terms of like from soft narrative.
Like a narrative, yeah, not
Yeah,
lore.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to be a lot. Like in Sekiro, it's just little tidbits, and it's
Hmm.
like okay, so it's a revenge story. Oh, okay, this kid is this, and I got to do this, and
Yep.
I'm not gonna spoil it, but
Yeah.
it's like there's a narrative. So it's like FromSoft has done it before, so you can't tell me that it's a Souls game. It's impossible. It's like no, they've done it before. Like don't fucking give me that
Yeah.
horseshit.
I think I do think it's a little dumb that like the story is told through like item descriptions and like
Yeah.
doing weird like things. Like I will say probably the biggest criticism I have of this game of Elden Ring, and call me a fucking casual again, I don't care,
Uh-huh.
is the lack of a quest log, like a journal to keep track of all the quests you're doing. Because oh my god, when you run into a fucking NPC and he tells you that he's going to be
Yeah.
somewhere else, you're just expected to either remember it or write it down in your journal or something. Like
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah. That's
Like,
always been a complaint for all the
yes,
Dark Souls games.
in the
It's like, I'm
previous
telling you.
in the previous FromSoft games, it worked because it was linear. But this is so fucking wide open.
Uh,
I
even I will say, even if the previous games were linear, it still was an issue because, like, if you wanted certain achievements, like in Dark Souls 3, where if you're
yeah.
doing like the evil ending, like you have to go through a fuckload of
Oh my
hoops and you
god,
have
that
to go
shit was
back and forth.
so annoying.
Yeah, and you got to do all this stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
you would never know that unless you had like a guide or
Yep.
something.
Exactly.
You have
Like,
to go away.
and that's the thing about this game too, is like more than ever I'm like, well, at what point should I look up a guide to kind of continue the story? Because I have no fucking clue where I'm going.
Yeah. So
And I am trying my hardest to pay attention to NPC dialogue and stuff, but like you get lost in the world and you just kind of forget. And characters don't exactly repeat themselves in this game.
yep. Doesn't help that
Um
they fucking talk like they all have dementia. So
you
like,
seek the Elden Ring.
yeah, the sure the dialogue is great, but holy shit, speed it up, God.
Yeah, like I always feel a little bad like skipping over character dialogue because the voice acting is really, really good. But like by the time they finish their sentence, I've already read it like 6 times.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Sekiro actually improved on. Like they talk like normal people. Like, it goes fast. Like it's pretty. Like you can sit there and listen to them, and it's like you and I talking. You know,
Yeah,
it's nice and quick.
exactly.
But then
Yeah.
in all the Dark Souls games, for whatever reason, they always have this trope of talking like this. You know, they talk so slow, and it's like, dude, hurry it up. I'm trying.
There's always there's always really long pauses between their sentences.
Yeah, like that.
And
Yeah.
that can make the conversation feel really unnatural.
Yeah. So I people would call it a nitpick, and yeah, it is. But like, you're gonna tell me this game's a 10 out of 10, and I'm telling you, no, it's not. So
I don't think that will bring the score down. Like it's a nitpick, but it's not enough to lower the score. I agree with you that this game is getting 10 out of 10s across the board, which is fucking crazy to me.
yeah,
But here's the thing that you need to remember about major game publishers is most of the time they don't finish the game.
yeah,
Like I'm being 100% honest with everybody listening to you. I guarantee you that 9 out of 10 major review publishers that played the game did not actually finish it.
I will also tell you that most of the time, these reviewers they get paid off. So FYI, even
That's
though I
illegal.
can, yeah, smoking drugs is illegal too. No,
So let's clarify this.
uh-huh.
By getting paid, it doesn't necessarily mean they message you and be like, "Hey, check your PayPal." You know, what that means is these game published these like IGN for example. They get early review copies for Call of Duty, fucking Elden Ring, all this shit. And they want to keep that privilege because it's a huge fucking advantage. You get your review the day it comes out because your reviewer got it a week early, and they want to keep that advantage. So publishers kind of leverage that by saying, you know, by like implying like, hey, if you give us a shit review, we're not going to send you this early copy anymore. So that's kind of what, like, they don't directly pay these major review sites
Yeah,
to review their game positively, but there's an added pressure to it.
yeah, it's the same thing in movies. They do that
Yes,
all the time in movies.
yes, there are.
They give them stellar scores, and the movie's actually trash.
Yeah, like what we did with Septic Man.
Yeah,
um, but you know, like a major movie will come out, they'll fly these critics to LA to go to the red carpet premiere. They'll wine them, they'll dine them, then they'll show them the movie and be like, "Hey, you really enjoyed this experience, right?" And then of course the critic will come home with all their swag from the movie and they'll write a good review.
yep, yep, yep. And I just want to say that for whatever reason, Dark Souls has garnered such a huge like cult out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Like we mentioned that it just started blowing up, right? Well, it's like now one of the most like beloved franchises of all time for whatever reason. It just happened.
Yeah,
It
it's pretty
must be
crazy.
Yeah, like it just happened that way, and it's so much so that like there are so many games out there that started copying Dark Souls, and now it's its own genre called the
The
soul,
Souls like.
yeah, the Souls like genre. So it's like these games are beloved. So
Yep.
that's why I'm also skeptic of that 10 out of 10 score, because I'm like, is it really a 10 out of 10, or
Hmm.
is it just fanboys like fucking coming to it? You know?
Yeah, and that's another interesting aspect you bring up. Is I was actually talking to my partner about this, and we were discussing like, is this game really a 10 out of 10, or are all the people reviewing it just really big fans of the franchise?
Yeah. And the reason why I say that too is because, like you just mentioned, you get early copies,
Hmm.
and the people that would want an early copy for this game are typically fanboys of the series.
But it's really hard for me to say because obviously neither of us have
Yeah,
finished the
I'm
game.
not done. I'm hoping
Yeah.
it isn't. I'm hoping it is a 10 out of 10. It's not like I don't want it to be a 10 out of 10. I'm just very skeptic that it's a 10 out of 10
Yeah.
because, in my experience, the previous games were not 10 out of 10s. Like, I can love them to death. I can love them to death and be like, oh man, Sekiro, probably one of the best Dark Souls game or Souls games I've ever played.
Hmm.
I still claim Bloodborne is like my favorite Souls game of all time.
Yep.
I love the hell out of that game. Do I
Yeah.
think it's a 10 out of 10? No, but I love Bloodborne. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like I'm in that range where I want to love this game as much as I love Bloodborne, but I am very skeptic that it's a 10 out of 10.
I
So,
think, yeah, for sure. Like, obviously, of course, with any game that you're trying for the first time, approach it with as open mind as possible. Like, don't come into this game expecting a masterpiece because obviously you're going to be disappointed. Um, I'm, I'm a huge fan of this series, and personally, I've been completely blown away by this game. As I was mentioning earlier, it's my personal pick for game of the year, and I'm not even done with it yet.
okay.
That could very well change, but is this a 10 out of 10 for me? It's hard to say because I gave Sekiro a 10 out of 10, and
Really?
that's when I finished the game. Yeah.
Oh.
I gave Sekiro a 10 out of 10. I personally think that like Bloodborne is a 9 out of 10, and for example, like the first Dark Souls game is like a 7. There are some issues with Elden Ring, but for whatever reason, if this video is like kind of swaying you on purchasing it, I will say one major flaw that's going on right now is this game runs like shit on PC right now.
Yeah, it does.
It is a
Very good.
horrifically optimized PC port.
Yeah. It's not
The open world struggles to get 60 FPS, and my PC isn't the best, but it can handle pretty much any game I throw at it. Like it ran release Cyberpunk at like 40 to 50 frames.
I couldn't
So
stream this game because of screen tearing, unfortunately.
yeah, the screen tearing is really bad. They've already released a day one patch, but it's not enough quite yet. And I
Yeah.
will say performance issues like this would kind of lower the score for me because I'm like, there's literally, Paul, there's a boss I cannot do because the frame rate is so fucking bad in his area.
See, that is actually a good point you bring. That would
Yeah.
definitely mark it down.
Yes.
At least in current score. Maybe
Yeah.
later down the line it'll boost up, like
Yeah.
like for example, No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
If I were to rate it on launch, I would have been like, this game's ass.
Yeah. It's fucking
Now,
horrible.
yeah, but now No Man's Sky is like amazing. Have you ever played
Hmm.
it? It's
Yeah.
incredible.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, like I think the difference there though is that Elden Ring's not missing content.
Yeah.
It's hard to play because of how it's optimized. I'm sure for PS5 it's fine. I think only PC is reporting issues right now. Um, but I'm not gonna lie and say that it's something I can just ignore because when I'm getting like 10 frames a second when I'm trying to kill a boss, it's pretty fucking annoying.
Really bad.
Yeah. Um,
Hopefully it gets better.
I hope so too.
Otherwise it'll be like another Blight Town.
We'll need a fucking Elden Ring fix mod.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really, really, really enjoying this game right now. It's a
Good.
super fresh breath of air to the series. It's what it needed. It's like future games in the series should just be Elden Ring, but like different. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of time. They've made enough changes to the formula that I feel like it's a completely unique thing. There are some things that I don't like about it, and so far it doesn't really feel like a 10 out of 10. But this has the potential to be my favorite of From Software's games.
Ooh, that's your
Yeah,
thought. Okay.
yeah, I would say.
Okay.
The amount of times I've been in awe at the enemy design, at the level design, at just moments that I've experienced. I don't know. I was thinking to myself, like, it's almost criminal to have a game this good.
That good, huh?
Yeah, I know we kind of like that we spent the last like 30 minutes kind of bagging on this game, but I want to make it clear that I really fucking love this game so far.
I wasn't bagging on it. I'm just saying I'm very skeptic about it.
For sure, yeah, and I think it's fair too when like in the current gaming landscape, I feel like I'm disappointed so often when it comes to modern games. I don't know about you, but like modern AAA games, I feel like 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna be really disappointed by it.
Yeah, for the most
Yeah,
part. And
they
FromSoft,
overpromise and underdeliver.
I mean, at the very least, FromSoft doesn't do that, but it's always super hyped up.
That's what people said about CD Projekt Red. Remember
Yeah.
before they're like, "Oh, they would never lie to us," and we got Cyberpunk. So it's not like From Software is immune. It just feels really great to like finally be hyped up for a game and have it deliver so far for me.
Good. Good. I hope I can experience the same because I'm not there yet.
Yeah, because again, you haven't played nearly as much as I have.
No, I have not.
Yeah. You know, I've made it very clear I'm pretty biased towards this series, which is stupid. There's no such thing as an objective critic. They're going to have their fucking biases no matter what.
I try to be unbiased as much as possible, but
You can try, but like there's always going to be some kind of like bias. You're a human,
yeah,
Paul. As much as you want to be a computer, you're a human being.
not until I get my bio enhancements.
You're going to be first in line for that Elon Musk chip.
Yes, give it to me.
But anyways, so I guess after like 6 hours, Paul, what are your thoughts? What is your first impressions of Elden Ring?
Really good game so far. I think it's really good. I'm just skeptic that it's a 10 out of 10. That's all.
Okay, fair enough. My first impressions are this is a very great game. It has the potential to be my favorite. I disagree with the 10 out of 10s that it's getting. Rest assured that this is a fucking great game.
All right.
Yeah, but so yeah, this is we're changing up our content, which I really like.
Yeah.
We're trying something fresh, trying something new.
No, I really like this content, and I hope everyone else does too. We got the regular Crusty Couch podcast, and then where we talk about random shit, and then we have now we have our shitty movie reviews, and we'll have new movie reviews, a new one coming soon.
Yes.
Just FYI, be on the lookout for that one. Next one, I'll give you a hint. It has to do with bats. Oh! And then now we also have this in our arsenal, which is our gaming topics, I suppose.
Yeah,
just
so
anything gaming related, I guess. We used to have this in our main channel, but we thought it'd be best to just separate.
Just kind of separate it, allow these games that we're playing, because we're both really huge capital G gamers. We both haven't showered in months, but like we want to allow us to talk about this stuff, and with movies too, and then with the podcast we can just talk about random bullshit or stuff that happened in our week. For now, what did all of you guys think of Elden Ring, or what are your thoughts so far? What are your first impressions? Let us know in the comment section down below. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys about this game because I think that it's very interesting. And thank you so much for listening or watching or whatever it is that you do. And feel free to share this with your friends, your family, your dog, your cat. And we will see you guys in the next Crusty Couch video.
Bye, everybody.